The story is I got these apricot seeds
I'm going to force you to
and,
tell this story.
And this is the first time I've told this story live. I'm really trying to be into health and eating right and doing the right thing. And I'm trying to, I go deep into the rabbit hole of conspiracies, you know? And so I got this thought about these apricot seeds, these bitter apricot seeds. And so I order them, and they're supposed to be healthy and the superfood. And so... Please don't buy them. Listen to the whole thing I'm about to say.
Or at least read the instructions.
Or read the instructions.
So I get them in, and my wife was just sitting there. I go, well, how many of these seeds do I eat a day, you know, to be healthy? And she goes, I think they're like almonds. You just munch on them.
Right.
And so I open the bag, and I start going. 10 seeds in, I start giving them to my kids. I'm like, these are like a little bitter, but they're, you know, my kids are eating them. And then my daughter, she's just real inquisitive. She's 11. She goes over to Google, or Google little voice speaker, and she goes, hey, Google, you know, what are the health benefits for, you know, apricot seeds? I want to know what my dad's giving me. And then it says,
thank God.
Do not eat if you're a kid. It's fatal.
Right.
And I'm like, wait. And it says, then don't eat more than 3 a day if you're an adult. Start at 1.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, I take him to the bathroom. We're throwing up. You know, we call the ambulance. Long story short, you have to wait 24 hours. The poison control said 24 hours they digest in your body, and when they digest, they release cyanide. And this is why people think they're a health benefit, because you eat one and it kills these parasites. Anyways, long story short, I got an illustration out of these because I was sick.
That's a hard one.
I lived. Number one, I lived. So the Lord is
lived.
good. I had the whole church praying for me.
Everybody lived.
And now I read instructions on everything. But I told my kids were like, Dad, why would God put poison in seeds? And I said, well, kids, it's so that the animals won't eat too many of these seeds. It's the protection God put in the seed so that the fruit will come. Right. Because God's okay with them eating the fruit, but not the seed. Wow. Because the seed has the power of more fruit. And but it's that seed that doesn't have a taste. I mean, in my case, it was almost poisonous. You know, and God put that poison in there. And but the picture of that seed, the protection of that seed, to do everything to protect that vision that God gave you. But when you put it in the ground, it looks like you're burying it, but you're really planting it. And then you're watering dirt. I mean, you know, people like to go move pastures for greener grasses. Sure. But I always say the grass is not greener on the other side of the fence because it's on the other side of the fence. Right. It's greener there because someone watered it.
Somebody watered it. Yeah,
and so how did I make it through this? I just kept watering it with my tears, watering it with my prayers. And like, I think that God honors that trust and that faith, and it builds something in you so that when the fruit comes, you don't take the fruit lightly. Yeah. You go, okay, there's another seed in this fruit. There's more that God wants to do. And you know the value and the pain that came to see that one soul saved. For sure. And you see it different. And so, you know, church planting is not for the faint at heart. It's not for the not called. Right. Right. It's not the cool thing to do. It's not fun. Yeah. And people used to always say, are you having fun? Pastor would come in and go, man, are you having fun yet? Right. And me and my wife would just bold-faced lie to them. Like, yeah, we're having loads of fun. 10 people just left. We couldn't pay this bill. We don't even know where we're going to live next week. Our kids are going into this school that we don't want them to be at. Like, yeah, we're having a blast. Yeah. We don't wish we left that youth ministry that we had a full-time job at and thriving. And then the Lord spoke to me. He said, they're asking the wrong question. The question should be, are you fulfilled? Yeah. Because having fun and being fulfilled are two different things. You know, it's stewardship. Like being a parent isn't fun at all times, but it's fulfilling. Fulfilling for sure. You know, because you're literally taking care of another human. Exactly. But that's what it feels like as a church pastors and planters and leaders. No matter if you've taken over a church. Yeah. Because there's a whole different aspect to that, right? I mean, tell us about that. I mean, I know I'm on the podcast.
We've never had
so much
a problem.
Wisdom.
So it's like, you know, when you take one over, it's all like
thank you, Lord, for your angels.
And that's his bold-faced lie.
I just think it's this. You know, I love what Paul says when he talks about all of these hardships he goes through, and he says, you know, I've been beaten, I've been shipwrecked, I've been this, I've been that, I've been stoned, I've been all these things. And it's it's interesting at the very end of this whole list of things that we see as these really unbelievable circumstances for a leader to go through. His last comment, he says, is, and I carry daily the weight of the church. So he equates the weight that he's carrying for the ministry he's been called to, and the young Timothys and planting and all these things he's doing. And he's like, just like being beaten, being shipwrecked, and I carry this weight. There was a fair amount of maybe even anxiety, you know what I mean, that Paul is wrestling with in terms of these new churches he's planting in places and leading in very hostile environments of cultural, I mean, these people could lose their lives. They could lose their life. They could lose their incomes. They could lose everything because now they're a part of Christianity. So I think no matter what you're leading, there is a weight you will feel as a senior pastor. And you've been on staff for years. I've been on staff for years, and you'll never feel it till you sit in that chair. And it's that 200-pound weight vest that you put on that you never take off. You go on vacation with it. You go to bed at night with that vest. You wake up with that vest. Now, there's a grace. Please don't get me wrong. I think, just what you're saying, like, but this idea that, planting has sort of become, at least it seems like it's become the nouveau thing, it's the thing. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's literally, I'm talking to guys saying, I can't even find a youth pastor anymore. And I'm like, well, they're all planting churches at 23 and a half, and like, nothing wrong with being 23 and a half, but
you have to start at 16 for youth pastors.
But dear Lord, like seriously, like, man, I'd hate to think, if, especially in this day and age with social media and videos and all this, I'd hate to think what would be recorded when I was 23 as a youth pastor if I were a senior. My gosh, that would be horrendous. But I think no matter what you're doing in a lead spot like that, there's a weight you carry. I mean, that you're carrying, not like a weight that you're on. I'm saying like there's just this thing, and you don't ever really get to take it off. And yes, there's a grace for it, but it is. I mean, like you're here speaking here and enjoying this environment, but there's a part of you going, okay, I need to get back because Sunday's coming, or I got to get with these people, and I got to care for those people, and I think it's so. I think whether you're planning, whether you're leading,
signing up, counting the cost for that weight.
Yeah.
And there's a weight to taking on a ministry.
Yeah.
Same way in a different, I have several friends that have, they started planting.
Right.
And then now they inherited another church.
Oh,
One of my
absolutely.
friends, he inherited a church.
Yeah.
And he's trying to merge his planted church with the inherited church. And he's like, this is actually harder than it was over here.
No,
like now I have the building and I have the budget.
It's a hostile
and I have
takeover.
The staff, but it's
a
like,
blended family.
wow.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. And there's pastors out there that are called to both.
Yeah.
There's some people that
it's
have
amazing.
special gifting.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants to go plant. Everybody wants to go multi-site. And again, I'm for all those things. I think God's doing some amazing things. That counting the cost, though, like, that first campus, same situation. Somebody came to us and said, hey, we want to do this. And, of course, in your mind, you're like, oh, this is fantastic. And we knew it was the Lord even. But I mean, jokingly now, I still have a few of the people left over that were a part of that kind of merger. It's what we called it. They called it a hostile takeover. But really, I mean, it's all perspective. It's all these different views. And so it's a challenging thing no matter what you do in ministry. But there is a grace for it. And that's why you got to be called to it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the key.
If God's called me, then I can rely there's a grace for it. That grace, that supernatural ability to do what God's called me to do.
Right.
If I'm doing this on my own, if I've sent myself, man, there's a million things you could do with your life that would be better, in my opinion. So